We'll call this council meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. I want to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the land on which we are meeting is the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples and the homeland of the Métis Nation. As a council and a municipality, we will continue to work on moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I'll ask for a motion for the adoption of the minutes.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council and the organizational meeting of council, both held at City Hall on November 14th, 2023, be adopted as circulated.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Doyle. All those in favor? And that's carried. We have one delegation in the chamber tonight. We have Portage Learning and Literacy Center. Kathy Dowd, if you want to come to the mic, turn the mic on so you have a green light. It's a little talking person there. It's okay.
Okay.
And if
press this.
Yep, it'll flip. If you want to say your name into the mic for the record, please.
Kathy Dowd.
Thank you. And you're live on TV, so you want to
Okay.
speak into the mic.
Well,
The floor is
okay.
yours, Kathy.
Thank you, everyone, for having me here today. I'm the Executive Director at the Portage Learning Literacy Center. So hopefully most of you have heard of us and seen us on the main street of Portage la Prairie. We've recently expanded, so hopefully you noticed that as well. It's very exciting for us because we were at capacity before that time, and now that we have that new building beside us, we've been able to expand our programs into that space, and we're now at capacity again, and so we're also looking for additional expansion opportunities. So I just wanted to come here today and just kind of give a brief overview of the programs and services that we offer and provide a bit of a history of our organization, where we started and where we are at now, just for everyone's benefit, because I think from our strategic planning that we did last time, we found that many people either know us as a settlement serving organization or an education center for adults or employment programs, but sometimes it doesn't always combine into one, where people understand that we do all these things in one center. So that's, oh, now what? There. So a quick history of the Learning Center. So back in 1991, we started as Portage Plains Employment Programs Incorporated, and we just basically had two programs. We were in a little small square footage of our current space. Job Finding Club and Voyagers Career Exploration were our two programs, and that's it. In 1995, we expanded to become the Portage Learning Center officially, and we became an official adult learning center with programs including mature student high school diploma, adult literacy, and family literacy at the time, with the on-site daycare. And that daycare has always been a satellite location of Portage Daycare, so they've been a huge partner of ours. Skip to 2006, our name was officially changed to the Portage Learning and Literacy Center Incorporated. And that, it also included expansion of our programs over the years. Employment assistance services continued. So we've had that since the beginning. And then we've added various programs, namely for employment. So we had an older workers program, a youth program that came and went based on funding at the time, and other programs as well. Our biggest addition was back in 2008. We started offering ESL classes and immigrant settlement services, and that was funded through the province. But then IRCC took over that funding in 2013, and they've been funding it since. We grew significantly in that program, so we started with just 2 settlement staff in 2008, and we were only serving about 50 newcomers a year, and now we're at 9 full-time staff and about 10 part-time staff, depending on the time of the year. It's often more. And we serve currently over 1,300 newcomer clients, and that's just last year, and I know this year will be significantly higher. That's served at least one time. So many of those clients will come back multiple times throughout the year to receive our services. Our Portage Work Experience program was our newest program, and that was in 2016, and that served 10 10 participants within that first 6 months. And then we expanded it to be 20, and then we added skills training and employability skills training prior to the work experience, and all of that is paid for any youth participant. And then we now are serving about 40 to 50 youth per year, and we have about 50 employers that we're working with. And then we just recently added Portage Accessible Careers and Employment, so that's specifically a work experience program with skills training as well for people with persons with disabilities. So that's serving approximately 10 people per year right now. We also just recently added ID services, so anyone that has a need to access ID or government-issued ID and documents and getting help with that, we help people with that, and we cover costs for people too. And that's funded through the province. We added food security programs. We saw a huge need, especially during COVID. We provide snacks for our learners and for our ESL learners and our participants. And then we got a grant to be able to add food security for a 2-year program. So it's a huge benefit to our participants and our learners because, you know, they come to school and we don't want them to be hungry, so they can't focus. So it's an important program that we offer as a wraparound support. As you know, as a nonprofit, we're governed by a board of directors. We're managed by me, and we have a lead teacher as well in partnership with our education providers. So that's the MITT. So they are the direct operator of our education programs. So it's an accredited institution, and we have 23 full-time staff. We have 20 part-time staff. That includes 5 ESL and 10 youth that we hire every year to facilitate our youth engagement program. This past summer, we served 84 newcomer youth in that program, kids that get summer programming throughout July and August. And then, as you know, October 2023, we expanded our programming into the adjoining building. So hopefully people can check that out soon. So that's our staff there. We're missing a few people because we've added staff since then, but that's pretty much everyone. Quick
We
look.
have just a couple minutes left.
Oh my gosh. So this is our mission statement. You can check that out on our website. These are our services. So as you see, it's not just the one program area. We have all these services and they're available to everybody. Even the settlement services, we have community events and we encourage other people to join. It doesn't have to just be for newcomers. And a lot of these programs have smaller components and wraparound supports. So employment assistance services, and I'll just skip through this because I have handouts as well. So as you can guess, it's about helping people find a job, retain a job. So most of it is short-term services, resume development, cover letter, that sort of thing. And we have one staff that's the employment consultant that works with individuals to run this program. That's funded by the province. We serve about actually 350 people in that program. Program coordinators for the work experience program. Like I said, there's 2 components to it now for not just youth, but also persons with disabilities. And so we provide the paid work experience or paid skills training, and then for 4 weeks, and then 10 weeks of paid work experience. And employers can benefit significantly from taking on a participant in this program. We have a lot of great employers that we love working with and have been successful both for the participant and the employer. Adult education, as I mentioned, it's for people that want to get their high school diploma for if they didn't complete it for whatever reason, or they can come in and get individual credits, grade 10, 11, and 12 for upgrading to post-secondary. We have adult literacy, so stages 1 to 3. We're the only organization in the province that has a literacy program attached to our mature grade 12, and it's the ideal hub model, as according to many people that have told us. And so we're like the model sort of agency that has all these programs and services in one location.
You have about 1 more minute.
Okay, almost. And then we have an on-site daycare, which is super important for our programs. Immigrant services are our biggest program. This is our biggest funder and also the most amount of staff that we have. So we're funded by RCC and the province, and we provide services to all newcomers in Canada. So it's permanent resident and any Manitoba eligible clients, so they just have to be identified as a newcomer in whatever capacity. So we serve them. And those are all of the programs that we have, and then more. ESL is a big part of what we do. We have 3 classes right now and 5 staff that help run them. And then we plus have English for Work, which is offered 3 times per year. ID services, as I mentioned, we do passport photos and residency photos for anybody. So if anyone in this room needs a passport photo, you can book an appointment with us, and it's only $10. Money management training, we're funded by the Seed Winnipeg to be trained facilitators to offer this to the community. So anyone can attend these, they get a certificate, and they're great for people to learn money management skills. Community volunteer income tax, we do this every year, every March and April. Anyone that's eligible, so usually you have to have a modest income and a simple tax situation, we can file people's tax returns at no cost. Last year we served close to 250 individuals with filing their tax returns for free. And these are some of our volunteers, if anyone's interested here about volunteering. And that's it, thank you.
Thank you.
Was I on time?
No,
Oh,
but that's okay.
I tried.
You tried. Awesome.
And that's it.
Does anyone have any questions for Kathy, Council?
You gotta have questions.
Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Really no questions, just more of a comment than anything else. And thank you, Ms. Dowd. For somebody that maybe doesn't utilize those services, they sometimes go onto my radar, and to be able to, of course, see them again and be refreshed about all of the services you provide. I know it's been said 100 times or 100,000 or 1,000,000 times that a community is really the sum of its parts. And I think what you bring is an invaluable service specifically to a community our size that's growing exponentially as well. So I just want to congratulate you on your work in the 30-odd years that the organization has been around. I've certainly seen you transposed to where you are today. And I really, for one individual, I really appreciate the work that you do.
Yes,
Keep on
thank you.
keeping on.
Thank you. And I
Thank
didn't
you, Madam
even
Mayor.
I didn't even mention diversity because I wanted to talk about that today too. But this past fall, or a couple months ago or a month ago, I don't know, we did a big event that was a sort of an alternative to our past I Heart Heritage event that we partnered with the Portage la Prairie Museum on. And we made it indoors, so we're not combating with the weather and competing with other summer festivals. And it was a really successful event, and I know a number of council members were at it as well, and we appreciate the support. And I think we're excited about building it to be bigger and better next year. I think we had a great turnout. We had a lot of participation from the community, and a lot of people from the community showed up to support. And I think it was a huge asset to the community to have that event. And I look forward to doing it again next year with everyone here involved as well, as much as possible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I totally, Councillor
Yeah.
Massey?
Thank you, Worship. Ms. Dowd, thank you for your presentation. I know you do a lot, and I can see what you definitely have a lot on your plate. If I were to ask you, what's the 1 or 2 big needs in our city from your perspective and the work you do? And I know you have to limit it to 2, but just as a new councillor, and what can, as a council member or a council, what can we do to support you in your work?
That's a good question. I think obviously the age-old transportation, childcare, but I think we do, for our immediate sort of needs, I think space is still an issue. We're looking to expand even further back within that new space where we took over. There's room to build back, and we're going to do that hopefully next year once we get some new funding. And then going sideways, we would love to have a daycare on the main level, like on the main level of the street, because right now they're in our basement, and that's not ideal to offer a daycare. And then, funding is always important for a nonprofit organization. We know we have limited funds, and often those are tied to specific budgets that are set out by our funder, and we don't have a lot of extra money to be able to spend on important events in the community that everyone should be benefiting from. Yeah.
Councillor Doyle.
Hi, Ms. Dowd. Thank you for coming tonight. I have a few friends within your organization, and I'm aware of all the good work you do there. I'm just wondering, do you happen to have any open houses or anything coming up in the near future that the public could attend to see what you do in the building?
Yes, thank you for that. we do have an open house. We're having it this Wednesday at 2 to 5 p.m. So everyone here is welcome to come out. I meant to print off the actual invitation and then I forgot it. So you want to join us on this Wednesday actually at 2 o'clock, and we'll have it from 2 to 5. Drop in as you can, and then we'll have some holiday treats and coffee and whatever, and give you a full tour of our space. So welcome, please come.
Thank you. Excellent presentation, lots of information. I knew you were going to say transportation. That's why I giggled.
That's why I said
I
it.
know. Excited about your new space. We were very thrilled you took over the building beside you, and wish you luck in all of your expansion. And everybody needs to go on Wednesday to your open house. So
Yes,
thank you.
please. Thank you very much.
Okay, we will open public hearing for conditional use PC 79-23 for Jagbur Sem Knob at 59 3rd Street Northwest. Is there anyone in?
Your worship.
Hello,
Hi.
Councillor
Sorry.
Espy.
I must declare conflict in this item and the following item and ask to be recused.
Thank you. So that's 59 3rd Street Northwest. I'll ask if there's anyone in the chamber to speak to the to the application. In favor? Yeah. If you just want to come to the mic and state your first and last name.
Hello. Hi, my name is Jagbir Sambi. I am the applicant for the conditional use and the variance for 59 3rd Street.
Perfect. Did you have a statement to make, or did you just want to answer questions?
I am here for the questions.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question more for clarity, and I'm not quite sure if it's maybe for the applicant or maybe through our mayor to our planning district. But I just noticed that it's a conditional use, which is a use in an R2, and why it was not maybe referred to as an R3 rezoning practice, more so than just an R2. Is there rationale behind that?
I think it has to do with the zoning bylaw. I think the building that we're proposing, it would be a conditional use under the R2, but I think the planner would be in a better state to answer that question.
I'll just turn to administration. Would planning district like to answer?
He is correct in that matter that it would still remain an R2, being multifamily and being within parameters of that. So we'll just be looking at doing a conditional use on the land. It doesn't need to technically change right to an R3.
And there's no rationale why it didn't go to an R3. And
No, it wasn't required when we did the report.
thank you, Your Worship.
Do you have anything else? Mr. Pito?
Just to add on to the comment, in terms of going to an R3, that would be, a zoning plan amendment and change for that space. So this is a more expedient way for the applicant and is permitted within our rules.
Just a comment, it might be a little confusing because it was the building was a multi-previous that was on that space, but then things changed with our zoning throughout, so that's what.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My understanding is that it was previously grandfathered in there,
Yeah.
but once the building doesn't exist anymore, we have to apply for
Yeah.
the conditional use within the R2, right? My question was more, why was it not just
Right.
changed to an R3?
Gotcha. Any other questions?
And I'm good, thanks.
Good. Thank you.
Welcome.
I'll ask if there is anyone here to speak against the application. If you want to come to the mic and state your name, please.
My name is Jacqueline Hoyes.
Jacqueline, could you spell your name?
JACQUELINEHOYES.
Thank you. Did you have a statement to read?
I have a statement, yes.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I am here, Jacqueline Hoyes, and my husband, Devin Thiessen. We live at 58 4th Street Northwest, which would be sharing the back lane with this potential building. I'd like to first say We're not opposed to a building obviously being built on this lot. That's what it's for. We're opposed to such a large multifamily or whatever is to be built there. Such a large building to be built there that would undermine the fundamentals of our neighborhood by requiring so many zoning variations. That would be so unrecognizable from the neighborhood around it. I'd like to bring 3 points to council for their consideration when deciding this issue. What benefits will this building bring to the community? What can you see going wrong with this building being built in this location? And do you think when buying a home in the neighborhood, people would appreciate having this multi-unit dwelling so close to them? Another issue I'd like to raise to council is parking. One of the 8 variances the applicant is requesting is to limit the amount of parking they have to provide to 6 spaces. Our concern is where does the extra traffic go and what would added maintenance and provisions will be in place for the back lane that is already falling apart. Who will be responsible for snow removal, and with so much of the lot being requested to be used for dwelling, where will the snow be removed to? Another concern would visitor parking. What would be provided for visitor parking given that parking will already be so limited? Having read the city correspondence regarding the conditional use, we are not clear on what the maximum occupancy would be for each unit and the potential risk to occupant safety. Given a few other half-finished multi-unit dwellings in the city, do we have any guarantees that if granted, this one will be seen through? Given the existing neighborhood already uses the back lane to exit out onto Lorne Avenue, another one of the applicant's 8 variances being to build closer to Lorne Avenue, we are concerned for safety sight lines could not be met if this was built, resulting a lack of safety for both vehicles and pedestrians. In closing, we bought our home in a mature neighborhood that is zoned R2 because we wanted and appreciated the lifestyle the neighborhood provided us. We are concerned that if allowed to proceed, this project would set a standard for future projects and completely and irreversibly change the neighborhood we fell in love with by allowing multi-unit dwelling into our neighborhood. That's it.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment about your letter. It just that you referred to a lot of the variances, and that's part of the next part of the, so right now we're on conditional use.
Right.
So if you don't get questions or answers on that, maybe why at this point in the, okay?
That's just what, like.
Yeah, no, that's, I just
Well,
wanted to let you
yeah,
know that
no,
we
it's
weren't,
good.
we heard you. That
Yep.
is just, yeah.
Yep, no, I
Gotcha.
understand.
Does anyone have any questions at this point? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So if there's anyone in the gallery to speak to against the application? Anyone in the gallery who has any questions at this point? Do we have any letters to be read out?
We have one letter from George and Jean Rugg against the application. So they said, we, George and Jean Rugg of 61 4th Street Northwest, are against the application for a multifamily dwelling in a 2-family zone. The whole reason we neighbors bought our house in this area is or was because it is zoned for a maximum 2-family home. Changing the rules now is a slap in the face to everyone who is living here now. This applicant should be ashamed of themselves. This does not build a good community. It will just have neighbors fighting neighbors for limited parking and natural spaces. So no to PC 79-23, George and Jean Rugg.
Thank you. Nothing else, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be resolved, and I so move that the public hearing for conditional use PC 79-23 for Jag Beer Sembi Knob at 59 3rd Street Northwest now be closed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. All those in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, of course, Council, as you see in front of you, and as indicated by the applicant and some of the objections against it, is a request for a conditional use and is to allow for a multi-family dwelling in an R2 residential 2-family zone. So the background you've already heard, but the applicant seeks or wishes to build a 6-unit multi-family dwelling on an infill lot. The application was circulated to various city departments. There were no concerns, and we're dealing just with the conditional use right now, nothing to do with the variances. The application was circulated to various city departments, no concerns. Public notices have been sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius. And as you can see, there was the one written objection, and then I do believe from the other objector, there's some of that fit within that conditional use as well. So with that said, it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the conditional use application of Jagbeer Sembi. Should we also have Emma Knob in there as well? I'll just say Jagbeer Sembi and Emma Knob to allow for a multifamily dwelling in an R2 residential two-family zone at the property 59 3rd Street Northwest, which is legally described as lots 68, 69, Plan 18 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Do we have any questions or comments at this point? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. These are always tough decisions to make sometimes because you got to kind of balance out all sides. And I do take seriously any kind of objection to anything that does go on, and it does enter into my decision-making process as only one individual around the table. I think what we have to bear in mind, Council, and I do speak in favor of this, I do know it is outside our downtown core area, as we call it, within the planning division plan, but it is close. And I mean, when you look around the neighborhood, there's a number of these types of units. As an individual, I ran on and do believe in density, specifically in the downtown area, and have supported many of these types of developments if it fits the plan. We're not talking about the building right now, we're talking just about multifamily and the conditional use. So with that said, I certainly will speak in favor of changing this. I know that we're going to be talking about it in a minute regards to the variances that go with it. I'm not saying that that's going to be the final building that's there. That's not up to us to decide, but I think to be able to increase it to a multifamily dwelling really adds to our downtown section. And I do understand that there's some inconveniences specifically for the neighbors, surrounding area, and so on. But I think that's what our downtown really, really does need. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We will open up public hearing request for variation PC 80-23 for Jagbeer Sem and Knob at 59 3rd Street Northwest. I'll ask if anyone in the gallery is here to speak in favor of the application. If you'd like to come again and state your name, please.
My name is Jagbeer Sembi, and I'm the applicant for this variance on 59 3rd Street. And I just want to touch base on a couple of issues that were notified, especially regarding the back lane and the snow removal. So the back lane is going to be, our portion of the back lane is going to be paved, as well as the parking in the back is also going to be paved. And for the snow removal, snow will be removed from the parking, and there will be a designated sign at the back with the contractor's information on who to contact if there is any snow on the property. So snow removal and the back lane will be taken care of.
Thank you.
And I just have another another comment regarding the variances. So the front yard variance, currently as proposed, we have a 13-foot front yard variance. We can we can increase the front yard by another 5 feet. If that's something that if that's a concern, we can push the building back 5 feet more, and that would create a lot more room on the side. I know it's a corner lot, and there's a comment about projection of the building, and obviously for vehicles to kind of look at a 45 degrees angle towards the street. So we can push the building back 5 feet more if that's a concern. But yeah, other than that, does anyone have any questions?
Councillor Meyer?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. If I can just ask a question of clarification. When you say move the building back 5 feet or 1.3 meters or whatever it might be, You're not talking about changing the actual footprint of the building.
No.
Like the size would remain the same, but you're moving it closer to the parking stalls is what you're suggesting to have a larger frontage.
Exactly, yeah. So the current front yard we're proposing is 13 feet. So the proposed front yard would be 18 feet. We can do that.
But right now, the variance you're asking for is the 3.9 meters.
Correct.
Councillor Doyle?
Can you just confirm that front yard is 3rd Street?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a couple other further questions. Just in regards to the variances, and this is probably more of a question for the planning district through our mayor or through our city manager. I know we're talking about reducing, or the request is reduced from 9 stalls down to 6, but that's maintaining the same size of a parking stall that's required within the thing. Am I right in that? We're not changing the actual sizes of the parking stalls? We're just changing, or
We're not changing the size of the parking stalls, we're reducing them. So he's put a request in to go from 9 down to 6. The stalls still remain at the code size, which would be 9 feet a stall.
And then secondly, when we talk about the maximum height of the building, obviously we're talking a 3-story, and I'm going to trust that this final sketch you have is as close to what the plan is you have it right now, although
That's
it could be
correct.
subject to change, right?
Yeah.
We're talking actually taking it from the 9.1 meters to be increased to 11 meters, but that 11 meters isn't to the peak, right?
It's to the mid of the truss.
So what's the actual height of the building? Like to the very top peak?
I would have to double check, but like it's so basically the 11.03 meters is to the mid of the truss. That's typically how you measure the height of the buildings. So a very standard way of doing that, but I can double check that if I have that number.
He is correct in that is the way that you measure the correct height of it.
Yep.
Is,
I'm just curious to see what the height is to the actual top of the peak.
I have the drawings in front of me, but it doesn't say that. It just gives us the midpoint of the trusses. That's typically how they measure it. I don't have that number on top.
Thank you. No, that part I certainly understand. No issues there. And the very last question that I had, Madam Mayor, was in regards to, is it just built on a concrete pad, or are you planning to have any kind of a basement structure involved in this as well?
So in this building, there will be no basement, but it will be on piles.
On piles.
Yeah.
That's everything. Thank you, Your Worship.
I just have a question about, there was comments about occupancy. So what are the units?
So currently, the plan that we have is 2 units are going to be 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and then the other 4 units will be 2-bedroom, 2 bath.
Thanks. Councillor Doyle?
Thank you, Your Worship. Can I just get you to clarify, with the snow removal, you will have a contractor that will remove it from site?
That's correct.
Okay, so no snow storage on site.
No, as you can see, the park. If you look at the back, if you look at the site plan, actually, there isn't much room for the snow to be piled up on the side, and especially because of the corner lot, there's a visibility issue as well. So we will be removing the snow from the parking lot.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Nichols?
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship to administration or planning, can you give me, we're showing 3.35 meters to the north property line. What would it be to the curb? Is that something that somebody can help me with, please?
I don't know the exact measurement right to the curb, but you're probably talking about you'd have your sidewalk, and then you would also have the boulevard before you get to the street. So I believe you were 11 feet. I believe it was 11 feet from the building to edge of the sidewalk.
We can, or Ms. LaQuie-Jobin can answer that too. Oh, you need your mic there, Jocelyn.
I don't have the exact measurements, but I was just checking on my maps, and it's about 5.4 meters from the property line to the curb. That's for north of the building. That's what you were asking, right?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll ask if there's anyone else in the gallery and speak in favor. Is there anyone here to speak against the application? Did I can ask if you had any other clarification from your questions you want. That's fine too. No? Okay. Thank you. Anyone else to speak against the application? Sure, sure. Come on up. Just have to state your name to the mic.
I'm Stephen Hoyes.
Voice?
Hoyes. I'm my
Voice.
father.
Okay.
I just have a question. Is when the city planners started this, they had 8 rules that are obviously going to be broken now. Does that not raise alarm bells for you?
We don't look at them as rules that are broken. They're the variances to rules, and you'll often find that with things that we do in planning, because you can only set out so many standards, and then things change.
But this is 8 of them. Is that normal?
It can be, for sure. Yeah.
I'm not familiar. It just seems excessive to me, because but next question is, he's explained this is going to be a 6-family unit. What are you going to do with all the vehicles? Because you really think there's only going to be 6 vehicles?
We have found, all I can say is that just some precedents that we've seen recently with especially our multifamily is that we're finding that a lot of places like this, we have housing on the east end of town, is that those numbers are correct for what they are when it comes to apartments, etc. And so it's not, most of them don't have 2 vehicles per apartment. And so we're seeing that that's what's happening. So I think that's why the variances are coming like this, for sure.
One more question. Is this unit for ownership, or is it rental?
I can ask the developer, but I believe it is for market value rental. So, yeah.
Does that change the atmosphere of I guess this is another question. Does that change the atmosphere of the neighborhood, or that's not an issue either?
Nope. I think I'll just say what you're maybe confusing is thinking about affordable housing and market value rentals, right? So affordable housing has rate set, market value, probably most of these people will pay more than they do for a mortgage for these rentals. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have, or is there any letters to be read out?
There is one letter, the same writer as the first, the conditional use. So it's from George and Jean Rugg of 61 4th Street Northwest. They stand firmly against application for variance at 59 3rd Street Northwest. This building is far too large, far too close to every property line. A 6-car parking space across to full property. That is insane. Where does the snow go? The back lane is not even a proper lane. There is no city plow service for this back lane. The whole plan is an infringement on all of the other property owners. The petitioners should be ashamed of themselves. This idea does not build community unity. It will have neighbors fighting neighbors. George and Jean Rugg.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions for anyone before we? Councillor Nichols?
Thank you, Your Worship. Question for the developer, please. Sorry, I had a note and I missed this, if you don't mind. Through Your Worship. Is there, in terms of accessibility, are these units accessible?
Yes. So the main floor units are accessible. I believe there are no steps for the main floor, but there are stairs for of course the second and third floor. But they are main floor units. If you look at if you go to the next, yeah. So you can see the 2 of the units on the main floor.
So they're pretty much at grade then?
Yes,
in
they
terms
are
of
at
the first
grade.
level?
Correct.
Any thoughts in terms of handicap accessible type parking size?
Actually, initially that we had our parking was done in a way that we had one 10-foot parking stall, and the rest of the 5 or 8 feet. So we had one stall that was 10 feet, but the rest of the 5 or 8 feet. We can also do that configuration, but we did 6 parking stalls at 9 feet just so that we don't have to apply for another variance.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ask for motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be it resolved, and I so move that the public hearing for variation PC 80-23 for Jagbeer Sembi and Knob at 59 3rd Street Northwest now be closed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. All those in favor? Carried. And Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Of course, this falls on the heels of the previous conditional use request, which was passed. And of course, the request here, as we heard from the applicant, was to vary the following in a R2 residential 2-family zone. Site area requirement of 930 square meters to be reduced to 576.92 square meters. Side width requirement of 30.5 to be reduced to 16.45. Front yard requirement of 7.5 to be reduced to 3.9. The north side yard requirement of 3.6 to be reduced to 3.35. The south side yard requirement of 3 meters to be reduced to 1.5 meters. The maximum site coverage of 40% to be increased to 42.3. The maximum building height of 9.1 meters to be increased to 11.03 meters. And the minimum number of parking stalls requirements of 9 to be reduced to 6. So the background, as you've heard, the applicants, Jagbeer Sembi and Andreas and Emanov, are applying for the variation order in order to be able to fit the unit that you'll see the sketch and the site plan therefore within the existing space. Currently, for your information, it is a vacant lot at this point in time. And the application has been circulated to various city departments. The concern that, of course, they had was just in regards to the snow removal. The applicant did address that. Public notices have been sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius, and we've certainly heard the written objection and the physical objection in addition to the additional questions. So it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of Jagmeer Sembi to vary the following in an R2 residential 2-family zone with all the changes of the requirements as indicated previously, adding to that the owner provides a template to the City of Portage la Prairie of a snow removal sign with contact information that we put up on the property. And secondly, the property owner takes full responsibility of snow removal at the property known as 59 3rd Street Northwest, which is legally described as Lot 68, 69, Plan 18 in the parish of Portage la Prairie. And I so move.
I just would like to clarify something before. Should Knob be mentioned in the motion as an applicant? Is it both of you? Yeah, okay. Just add that to your motion,
Did I not have that in there?
but not the second. It's not written in the second, just so you know. We just wanted to clarify to make sure.
Sorry, we're talking the motion on the bottom. Variation request, of Jagbeer Sembi and, thank you,
Yeah.
Your Worship, Jagbeer Sembi and Andreas and Emma Knob.
Perfect, okay. Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by,
Sorry, Your Worship. One, and it was mentioned here just in terms of procedure, if we were to consider moving the building back that distance, would that be a point in time where we would include that into this, or? Thank you. Sorry.
Friendly amendment.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Councillor Nichols, I would suggest that unless the mover would like to change his motion before it moves forward to a seconder, you should move the motion forward as recommended, originally seconded, and then potentially open it for an amendment, and then that would be voted on, and then that would become the main motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you.
so move by Counselor
So
Meyer,
moved.
seconded by Counselor Nichols. All those in favor?
Now, we have to, before we can vote, Your Worship, if there is an amendment that is going to be required, I believe we have to do that before we vote on the motion.
Okay.
If there's somebody that requests that there's an amendment being made to this motion.
Okay, let's have some discussion before we make an amendment if we'd like. Okay?
And
Counsel,
I
yeah.
would like to discuss that. I think that being that it's a corner lot like that, that it may be, in terms of vision, is that something that we should make a motion on
I think the discussion is internal.
physically move the building? Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, keep going.
So that's something that I think that is relatively important here, being on that corner, if that's something you would consider in terms of that variance, to amend it.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yes, yeah, I would be in support of that extra 5 feet on the front. But just to consider, I think the neighboring properties are at 13 feet, if I'm not wrong. Yes, so we would be pushing the building 5 feet further than the front yard alignment of the neighboring properties.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So,
Is that something that, through your worship to planning, that would help alleviate that corner, or any concern about that corner that I have at this time?
Discussions in the office, we haven't had any concerns with that corner. It's kind of similar to another building down the way that's being built, which is higher traffic on First Street, coming off Lauren. Similar idea. We didn't really look through that. The bylaw didn't state that we should have a vision concern. We just kind of went off our measurements. If it's something that's passed, I know there are a few things in the plan that came back that we would be looking at and probably trying to tweak a bit. That would probably eliminate some of that space, bringing it back, such as vestibule area and such forth. You would probably gain some space that way to bump the building.
okay. Jocelyn?
I just wanted to make a comment that the previous building that was there was actually, this building, new building would be further back with these dimensions than the previous building was. So the sightlines will actually be better than they were with the building that was torn down.
Thank you.
Counselor Massey?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question to the developer. What was the reason you offered that up? Like, what, I'm just trying to get my head around. You said that is this because you think it would help some of the objectors, or just like, I'm struggling a little bit. You've agreed to it, so it seems like it's something that's you're prepared to do. But can you just explain to me why you're doing that?
Yes, yeah. So one of the concerns from the opposition was that the corner and the building height. So I did put it out there that we do have that option to move the building back. If that is a concern, we can do that. But again, it's the 13 feet is there because the front yard alignment with the neighbors. But if you have a concern with the corner, we do have an option to do that.
Got you. Thank you. Counselor Meyer?
Thank you, Mayor. I was maybe going to wait to see if there was an amendment to the original motion, but I may as well just state it now. I would speak probably against pushing that back.
Are you, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to call the question first on the motion. Does that work?
On which motion,
Your motion.
Which motion, Your Worship?
Your motion. We only have a second. We haven't called the question yet.
But you're asking for an approval. We're not there yet.
May, Your Worship.
yeah.
So
Still-
we have the original motion moved by Councillor Meyer on the floor. There was suggestions about an amendment. Amendment was not moved.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
we're still discussing the original motion. So the debate should center around the original motion.
Okay, my apologies. Go ahead. sir.
No issues, Your Worship. I certainly, I was going to say this if there wasn't a motion or an
Gotcha.
amendment made to the original motion, but before that amendment is maybe suggested, I just strongly believe from an aesthetics perspective, especially in our area, and I just want to, for the record, indicate that I live in that same downtown core area. I have multifamily, R2, R3 on the street that I live on as well. And I get it where there's a downtown core of a community. When you're looking at the aesthetics on this, I mean, to push that building back another 5 feet, when you've got 12 feet already, or sorry, what are we at here? 3.35 meters? What is that? 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 12 feet. You've already got 12 feet from the corner of the building to the area, plus the sidewalk, plus the boulevard. So, I mean, you've already got a lot of space, and I don't think there was any serious concerns in regards to seeing the traffic go back and forth. Planning District referred to an apartment that was built right on the corner of Lauren and First Avenue, or is under construction right now, is actually closer than this to that corner as well. As soon as you push that building back, I think it takes rid of the aesthetics and doesn't have that same kind of frontage line. And that's just me personally speaking. So it's not an amendment I would be in favor of, but I just wanted to throw that out there right now. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any, maybe, maybe I could ask administration to comment on the question about variances. And maybe I'm not that clear on my thoughts on it, so maybe administration would be better at explaining why we see so many variances at times.
Through Your Worship, I can attempt to answer that question. When you see conditional uses and variations, essentially you have a community plan, and the community plan is, I would argue, one size fits most. So when you bring forward any type of build, I would say they're more restrictive than not, for the intention of when you have something that goes outside of that standard plan, we have what we're having here, an open discussion with the neighbors impacted about how that property would impact. If we had those restrictions a little bit looser, we might not even have a hearing of this nature, and then a community member wouldn't know until the building was built. So it's sort of I would say that variations in conditional uses are generally more restrictive than not, for the purposes of making sure I have that trigger point where we can have a community discussion of those impacted the neighborhood on what's occurring. So when we see variations continuously coming forward, there's a number of items that they do in different builds in the community. Eventually we will change our bylaw to allocate for those, but these are ones that have triggered that process, and I think there's been good discussion around it. So I guess to summarize, you will see often, if there's one variation, there's often 2 or 3 for sure, just because of the nature of them being restrictive on the lot size.
That's what I meant to say. Thank you. Any other questions? All those in...
Wait a sec.
Ooh, Councillor Meyer.
Sorry, thank you, Your Worship. So I'm not hearing any amendments to the motion, so we're voting on the original motion. Is that what I hear, Madam Mayor? So just to that, I just wanted to add, for council's purposes or information, is something I'll certainly speak in favor of. I do take, again, any citizens' concerns of their area and where you live and where you choose to buy very seriously. Sometimes development and density and growth does have to supersede that. So in just in regards to the variances, I know there's a ton of them here, but the site area requirement I have no concerns with. Site width requirement, obviously it's to fit into the size of the lot. Front yard requirement, I think we've already had enough discussion about that, but I'm certainly in favor of leaving it where it's at. North side yard requirement, I'd like to see some differences between the back of the building and the parking stalls, which makes perfect sense. South side yard requirement of 3 meters to 1.5, that still puts you 4.5 feet from the neighboring property. If you go down the street, there are some properties that are closer than that. Maximum site coverage of 40% to be increased to 42 is not a big deal for me as well. Maximum building height, I had a little concern with that, but because we're talking roughly about 36 to 37 feet high. I can live with that if all the other stuff is passed, depending on where council is at. And the minimum number of parking stalls, I just wanted to be clear where they're talking about 9, but they're not reducing the size or the width of the parking stalls. And I think we've had many discussions in the past in regards from many developers around, not just this one, where really it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio right now based on cars. And especially if you choose to live in a downtown core, a lot of the times people don't have the same number of vehicles because you don't need one. I mean, depending on where you're walking to, you're 5 minutes walking distance with most of anything. So I just wanted to clarify where I was at with the variances, Madam Mayor, and I will be speaking in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to say the thing on the snow removal is I really appreciate the new addition of having developers ensure that there's signage, knowing who the snow removal person is and that who's responsible for it, because we know it's important in our city, and so happy to see that change. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We will move into finance we'll invite Councillor Espy back. We'll move into Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Worship, and colleagues. Before you, you may recall the issue of next year's council meetings was at committee last month, so hopefully you've taken the opportunity to put them in your calendar and make sure that they're all good for you. Generally, we hold our council meetings the second and fourth Monday of each month, and each year we pass a resolution to set the schedule for the following year. Council meetings are scheduled to start at 6 p.m. In accordance with the Municipal Act and the City of Portage la Prairie Procedure Bylaw, Council may change a council meeting date if necessary and advertise accordingly. Administration has gone through the year 2024 and taken into account a number of factors which you see there in your package, things like the summer schedule and so on. So the administrative recommendation, and I would move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the council meeting dates for 2024 as follows, and I won't read them all, but you see the dates in your package.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning Economic Development Committee has nothing else to report at this time, but something further down the agenda.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Community Services Committee has nothing to report at this point in the meeting.
Thank you. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. Waterworks Committee has nothing at this point in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Transportation Committee has nothing to report at this point in the meeting.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just like to discuss the acceptance of the 2024 emergency plan for the City of Portage la Prairie. So a little background on this. The Manitoba Emergency Measures Organization requires all municipalities to submit their emergency response plan annually with the deadline of December 31st. Administration has reviewed the City of Portage la Prairie emergency plan and made any revisions required for this year, such as updating appropriate contact information. Once accepted by Council, the plan will be sent to EMO for their records. The plan is attached to this agenda for the Council's review, but is not yet ready for public viewing. It is the administrative recommendation, and I am ready to move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie accept the 2024 emergency plan and authorize administration to send the plan and accompanying resolution to EMO.
Moved by Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments? Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Worship, and to Chairman Doyle or to the staff administration. I assume there's no major changes here. We're talking more just updating numbers and contact people. And I assume if there was any major policy shift in our plan, that would be brought into brought to our attention.
Mr. Pito.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Massey, yes, that's correct. It's more of just updating all of our information and reviewing it with staff.
Anything else? All those in favor? And that's carried. We have no deferred business. We'll move into new business. Interim operating and capital budget, Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Colleagues, before you have the proposal to look at approving the 2024 interim operating capital budget. The issue is the authorization to expend funds in 2024 until such time as the 2024 budget is approved. So we're looking for approval to spend money before our budget is passed formally. So the background analysis, you'll see there, Section 163 of the Act states that the Council may adopt an interim operating budget to have in effect only until the Council adopts the operating budget for the fiscal year. And you'll see for the general fund, we're looking at $6.2 million, and the general capital $3.7 million. And under the utility fund, we're looking at a operating budget of $3.4 million and $2.3 million for the capital. And administration advises it's about 25% of our budget. So that's what we're asking for tonight, to move forward and spend money so that we can carry on until our budget is passed. So the administrative recommendation is that Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the following 2024 interim budget. $6.2 million for the operating and $3.7 million capital budgets for the general operating fund, and $3.4 million for operating and $2.3 million capital budgets for the utility operating fund.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? No. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Again, Finance, Legislative, and Property, Banking Service Agreement Extension. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Colleagues, the issue before you is to extend our banking services as a city for an additional 2 years. The background is the city's banking services are currently provided by Stride Credit Union. The current agreement was approved by Council on November 9th, 2020 for a 3-year period commencing on January 1, 2021. The agreement does allow for an extension of the contract for an additional 2-year period with the same terms. Administration is satisfied that the services that they are currently receiving from the financial institution and recommend exercising the option to extend the agreement beginning January 1, 2024. It's the administrative recommendation I would move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the extension of the banking services agreement with Stride Credit Union for an additional 2-year period commencing January 1, 2024.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. 2024 fees and charges, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. And colleagues, as you know, every year we review our city fees and charges, and this is our review for 2024. The background is administration completed an annual review and analysis in order to compile a recommendation for next year's fees and charges. The 2024 schedule is attached with any fee changes identified. As you can see, for the most part, city fees and charges have remained competitive with like-sized Manitoba cities, and where changes are recommended, this is to cover increased administrative costs of delivering these services. So we have a few recommendations. I won't read it all, but I'll just give you the topic and you can see what it is. We're recommending changes to the local vehicle for hire. This is the transfer of a driver permit to a new company. The business license, outdoor mobile food vending unit and refreshment vehicle. We're recommending a change there. Solid waste and recycling. The fees will be increased $28.50 quarterly for solid waste and $17.20 quarterly for recycling. The fee reflects service delivery cost increases. Special events, we're increasing the fee for permits, block parties, festivals, and similar events. The vacant and derelict buildings, boarded building permits, the changes to the fee structure include a base fee for the first year of $2,000, and then for each consecutive year, the fee would be the base fee plus an additional year rate of $1,500. We're looking at increasing our firefighting all services. You'll see the cost increase there. As well, the language used in fees and charges has been updated to improve clarity for various fees. We are discontinuing some fees, so we're not just raising some fees, we are discontinuing some as well. Finance Department administration fee, $20 per hour. Financial institution property tax listing, $50 per copy. Copy of the voters list, $30 per copy, and the basic response charge for motor vehicle accidents of $450. So it's the administrative recommendation that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the 2024 fees and charges as outlined in your package.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. And it's more just a question of clarification. Can somebody just quickly explain to me what the basic response charge for a motor vehicle accident is? Your worship.
Through your worship to Councillor Meyer, I will ask Chief Bailey to speak to that.
So the basic fee for motor vehicle accidents was brought in a few years ago. We were running into a problem where we would have an accident and there should be an MPI claim, but the people didn't file a claim, so it got turned down. So then the fee was brought in thinking we could have a reasonable fee for them to pay for the average person. The problem is then when people receive the $450 fee, they turn around and open a claim, and MPI only pays us $450 instead of the $1,000 that's a basic claim on MPI.
Very solid rationale. Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you. I just have a comment that I'm happy to see the increase in the vacant and derelict buildings. We know we want to see property owners in our city not have vacant and derelict buildings because they lead to an increase in some of our use on some of our other services, such as bylaw, fire, police. So glad to see that. Any other questions? All those in favor? That's carried. October 2023 financial statements. Councillor Massey. Keep going.
Keep going. Thank you, Worship and colleagues. You have before you the October 31, 2023 statement of financial position for our city. You may recall last month we provided you with a forecast to year end. These are just for your information, but I'm sure administration will be happy to answer any detailed question you have, but these are just for your information at this time.
Thank you. Any questions on those? No? Thank you. We'll move into the accessibility plan. Again, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Worship. Colleagues, before you have a proposal to approve the renewal of the City of Portage la Prairie's multi-year accessibility plan. The analysis is that in order to be in compliance with the Accessibility for Manitobans Act, the city must review and update our plan every 2 years. And the deadline to submit our plan to the province is December 31, 2023. The plan has been in place since the end of 2016 and as required by the province. And when implementing the plan, the Accessibility Committee examined city services, held a public open house, and sought feedback from city staff. The plan has been reviewed and updated regularly since then. What we're doing here tonight, which is new, is that the addition of the Accessible Information and Communication Standard Regulation, which serves to remove and prevent barriers that exist digitally, in print, or through interaction with technology or people. So we're making our communication more accessible for everyone in our city. The province will be providing online training about this for staff before the compliance deadline of May 1, 2024. And as always, administration invites feedback regarding the accessibility plan, and this can be given in numerous ways so that the plan belongs to us as a city and to our residents. So all feedback is received and tracked, followed up on by the Accessibility Committee and shared with the related departments. The administrative recommendation is therefore, and I would move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the 2024-2025 Accessibility Plan for submission to the Province of Manitoba, that it be placed on the city's website and that copies be made available to the public on request.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments from anyone? All those in favor? And that's carried. 2023 Erickson Heights Development Agreement Amendment. Again, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Worship and colleagues. The issue here is to approve an amended development agreement with Erickson Heights Limited, Broad Street Properties, for Phase 2 of their development. In the background, in 2017-18, the city sold approximately 6 acres of land in the southeast area of the city to Erickson Heights Limited for a 2-phase multifamily development. And a development agreement was entered into in May of 2018, setting out the terms and conditions of the development and responsibilities of both parties. Phase 1 of the development consisted of one 61-unit and one 63-unit multi-family dwelling, and Phase 2 consisted of 6 4-unit multi-family dwellings. So Phase 1 of the development was completed in 2019, and Erickson Heights is ready to move forward with an amended version of Phase 2. And after discussion with administration, the following amendments were identified. Number 1, Schedule B is to be updated to outline new plans to build one 4-story multifamily dwelling with 118 units instead of 6 multifamily dwellings with 4 units each. Number 2, a utility fee of $47,000, 94 additional units times $500 per unit, is to be added to the utility fee, or is to be added to compensate the city for the loss of utility capacity on adjacent land. Payment of this utility fee is required before the final occupancy permit will be issued. And number 3, the year is to be removed in Clause 5 to now reference the current fees and charges schedule. The administrative recommendation is, and I would move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the amended development agreement with Erickson Heights Limited.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. The 2023 projects in process, transfer to reserves, Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Colleagues, the issue here is to authorize the transfer of specified 2023 operating funds to reserve accounts to fund projects in progress and to be completed in 2024. Each year, as you know, there's some capital projects the city is unable to complete, usually due to things beyond our control, such as climate, delays by funding partners or vendors completing these projects. And when these projects are funded by reserves, we include these in the following year's budget. Well, when projects are funded by the operating funds, the choice isn't available and they must be refunded under next year's budget, or the operating funding can be transferred to the appropriate reserve accounts to earmark these funds for the project's completion in the following year. So what we're doing here, we're taking our uncompleted projects and putting them in next year's budget. Total for the transfer to the utility reserve fund will be $265,000, and you'll see the various projects under that. And for the transfer to the general fund reserve, we are transferring $425,000, and you'll see the projects listed there that will be transferred into next year's budget. The administrative recommendation, and I would move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the transfer of $265,000 from the 2023 utility operating budget to the utility reserve and $425,000 from the 2023 general operating budget to the general reserve to complete projects in 2024.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments on those? Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm doing all the talking, but I do have a question I want to ask administration, not on the transfer of the funds, but these projects, can you give just a bit of an overview why they're carried over? I know we had a pretty good year on weather for construction, but can you give us just a little flavor of these carryovers? And would you say this has been sort of normal for our city to carry this amount of projects over? Is it a better year than we've had in the past? We got more work done this past year. Just a little bit of commentary on that.
Through your worship to Councillor Massey, I'll touch on some of the high points and speak to these projects. Your larger question is this a better or average or normal? I would say probably a little bit better than average. I'll touch on some of the big items under the utility, the 225,000 Crescent Road sewer renewal. We had a lot of projects come up in year in which we had to redirect our contractor to make sure that was completed. So this project was pushed back because of, frankly, failure of lines in the current utility network. So that resulted in this coming to the very end of the year and then was carried over. You'll often see, and it's some of the smaller asphalt sidewalk repair, those get carried over because contractors often will finish their project just before frankly freeze up. And there's usually deficiencies that have to be taken care of, and those aren't paid out until those deficiencies have been corrected. So you'll see those pathways, paving, a lot of those items carry over year pretty typically. The lift station pump repair, I believe that was a supply chain issue. I see that getting nods there. So that's just, frankly, over the last couple of years, we've had a challenging year with specific problems in valves and pumps, getting those in a timely manner. So we have that ordered, we have it tendered, we're ready to go, but we just haven't received it yet. So we're obviously not going to pay before we receive it. Quickly touching on the general reserve fund, a couple items that I would speak to. IT department painting, that has to do with a larger pushback of our city hall renovation plans. The RCMP flooring has to do with an actual underspending of capital, and we were able to retarget that to flooring, but we didn't know that till the end of the year. And so we're going to do that investment with this year's funds, but we can't wait. But we won't be able to get it done before the end of the year. The drone program is something that actually was a surprise in year because we were successful in getting third-party funding from energy organization. And so it wasn't something we were planning to do, but since we did receive money, we were going to move forward with that project, and that money's in year being transferred to next year. The final item I'll mention on is the Public Safety Officer Program. As council's aware, we received approximately $400,000 more in justice money, and that was already halfway through the year, and council directed and earmarked that money to move into a CSO program, which we've recently communicated under our strategic priorities. So rather than move that money out into a reserve and then draw it back in the future budget, what we did to make it more expedient and have a direct, transparent link is taking that money from this year's budget and moving it right into next year's budget so we can hit the ground running and expend those funds to get the program started. That's a very quick overview, but that a general idea of what we were working on there.
Thank you, Mr. Pito.
Thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried. One more, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Worship and colleagues. This evening, we are to finalize and approve the management and confidential employee manual and salary increases. The background on this is the management and confidential employee manual and salary schedule A, B, and C will be adjusted with the following changes, similar to the settlement you may recall we had with CUPE, and it is as follows. A 3-year agreement with salary increases of 4% in 2024, 3% in 2025, and 2% in 2026. And all proposed changes are outlined in the attached document. So it's the administrative recommendation, and I would so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approves the salary increases and manual changes to the management and confidential employee group for 2024, 2025, and 2026.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. You can take a break now, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. We're going into another item of new business, October building reports. Councillor Meyer. Last one for 2023.
You bet. Next one will come back. Obviously, we'll show November, December, then, of course, year in total. But I just want to quickly, Council, point out, you do know how I excited I do get about the planning permits, only as a result as that's our proof of shovel in the ground. So a couple of things, though, just to pay attention to that, obviously our permits, and when I do address it, of course, you have the city, you have the RM. I always refer you to the combined totals, as we always look at that from a regional perspective. So you're going to see that just in short, the residential has been relatively stable from year over year when we compare it at that point in time. Although the dollar value is down, the number of permits are up as well. But you will see that there's been an increase in multifamily or double, I guess R2 or whatever, residential homes being built as well. Commercial is up significantly under repair, so it tells you that, it gives you a really exciting picture that a lot of the commercial businesses are starting to invest back into their property, which is really what you need for a growing community as well. New is same number of permits, but up a little bit as well in dollar value. And where you're going to see the largest significant increase is institutional. Obviously, that's 42 million. Of course, I believe that would be attributed all to the hospital. But still, when you take that 42 million out of the total million of 90 million, it does leave the number of permits similar to where they were last year, with the total values down just slightly from 59 million to 47 million. So outside of the hospital, the city's doing extremely well. And I do want to just one time more congratulate Pred and all of the departments and various issues, because they're the first part of this. And then I certainly want to congratulate the planning district on the work and the effort that they put in, because we don't realize how much work goes into this until you actually have the opportunity to spend some time there. So hats off to everybody, and we certainly want to see what the year-end totals are going to be like come, I believe that'll be January or February.
Thank you. Any questions? Before we move on, I realized I did not recognize Dana Geisel, who's at the table representing PCRC, who is one of the people going to be sitting at the table for Mary Kozar, who's off on mat leave these days. So welcome. So new business, we'll have the first reading of the Suda Cachicha Indigenous Coalition bylaw, community services. Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. In April of 2019, the city passed the Urban Indigenous Peoples Coalition bylaw in order to form a link between City Council and Indigenous members of the community for the purpose of information sharing and to provide input, advice, and recommendations to Council. The Coalition undertook a comprehensive review and revision of its bylaws with the objective of aligning them more closely with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls to action. This initiative was part of a broader commitment to foster cultural inclusivity and awareness. Key amendments included the renaming of the coalition to Suda Cachicha, Stronger Together, an indigenous designation that embodies the spirit and unity of collaboration. The change directly addresses the call to action concerning language and culture, Section 14, highlighting the coalition's dedication to persevering and promoting Indigenous languages and cultural practices. Furthermore, the coalition sought to broaden its membership base and make its language more inclusive and less restrictive. This shift was aimed at enhancing community engagement and participation, thereby fostering a more diverse and inclusive organizational structure. Crucially, the reformation of the bylaws was guided by Indigenous cultural principles, particularly the medicine wheel and the 7 sacred teachings. These frameworks provided a culturally relevant and respectful approach to governance, ensuring that the bylaws resonated with the values and traditions of the Indigenous communities the coalition serves. The culturally informed approach was pivotal in creating bylaws that not only adhere to standards but also reflect and honor Indigenous heritage and wisdom. It is the administrative recommendation that Bylaw 23-8760, being the Suda Cachicha Indigenous Coalition Bylaw of the City of Portage la Prairie, be now read a first time, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Espy, seconded by Councillor Doyle. Any comments or question? Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship, and for Council. As the Council representative on that committee, I certainly speak in favor of the first. I know this is just the first reading, but what I just want to kind of point out, as we talked about, it used to be the Portage Urban Indigenous Peoples Coalition, and as one of the original members on that that brought that bylaw back, it was certainly sufficient at the time. But as things change and we move forward, this is now the new bylaw, should it pass, is much more reflective of the situation we have and the relationship we have with the urban Indigenous. So it's something I will certainly be speaking in favor of as we move forward. And I just wanted to comment on that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. I'd just like to comment that this is an exciting one for me, and the fact that we just released first information on our strategic direction. And if you look at what this says, then it fits under 2 of our points in our strategic direction of community well-being and community mobilization, as well as an inclusive and informed community. So it's nice to see us moving forward in all these different areas. So, all those in favor? Carried. And we'll move into award of maintenance of green areas, community services. Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Worship. The current contract for maintenance of green areas for the city of Portage la Prairie expired on October 31st, 2023. A tender was issued for maintenance of green areas for the 3-year period starting April 1st, 2024 and ending October 31st, 2026. The tender was advertised on the city's website. The tender was also posted electronically on Mercs for 30 days. Local contractors were contacted, 5 tenders were issued, and 1 was received. Go Green Lawn and Landscaping, Inc. was the bidder. The tender has followed the procurement tender process that incorporates sustainability and best value bid as required by council. Ratings were based on a total possible 100 points awarded with 60 points for qualifications, past relationship and experience, and sustainability, and 40 points for pricing. Go Green came in at 95.81 points. The bid price net of GST for this proponent was $501,778.62. The 2024 budget for this work is $166,410.84. The bid price for the 2024 portion of the work would be $848 over the budgeted amount net of GST. Are those numbers correct as presented there?
Yep.
Oh, that's per year. Okay. The administrative recommendation that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie award the contract for maintenance of green areas to Go Green Lawn and Landscaping, Inc. for a 3-year period from April 1st, 2024 to October 31st, 2026 for the price of $501,778.62 net of GST. And I so move.
Moved by Councillor Espy, seconded by Councillor Doyle. Mr. Pito?
If I may offer a point of clarification, and I think Councillor Espy saw that, but $501,778.62 is for the 3-year period. It is somewhat confusing. I can appreciate that we put the 2024 amount. We do that because we don't typically budget for a 3-year period, and we wanted to show how closely that was to our expected price for administration.
All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We will move into RCMP occupancy agreement, public safety. Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. The issue we will be talking about now is whether or not to approve the renewal of a lease agreement with the RCMP for the provision of office space for non-city RCMP members and staff. The RCMP detachment is housed at 340 Lorne Avenue East in the city of Portage, and the building is maintained and owned by the city of Portage. Lease provides that the RCMP pay a pro rata share of all police building operating and maintenance, as well as capital costs based on a ratio of non-city/city RCMP members and support staff. Schedule B from the proposed agreement detailing the cost and cost calculations is attached. Operating and maintenance costs may apply to site maintenance, snow removal expenses, janitorial expenses, HVAC, non-capital repairs, and any other costs agreed to by both parties. The current agreement for occupancy was November 1st, 2018 and expired March 31st of this year. A further 5-year agreement is being proposed. It is the administrative recommendation, and I would move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie authorize the mayor to sign this agreement between the RCMP and the City of Portage la Prairie for occupancy of the detachment by non-city police staff for a term of 5 years, and further that the occupancy fee shall be in accordance with the terms and conditions outlined in the Schedule B attached hereto.
Moved by Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Massey. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Another item of new business, first reading of maintenance and occupancy bylaw 23-8753 to amend bylaw 21-8723, public safety. Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. The issue at hand here is to approve or not approve the maintenance and occupancy bylaw 23-8753, thereby amending bylaw 21-8723. The following changes have been requested and are recommended by administration. Number 1, to add Schedule F regarding boarded building requirements for all structures on property. Number 2, to add definitions providing clarity regarding the new Schedule F defining boarded building code and fire protection system. Number 3, to add a clause under Part 2, property standards regarding restrictions to the parking and storage of vehicles on property. And lastly, number 4, to add a clause under Part 2, building and occupancy standards requiring all residential buildings used as revenue earning or rental dwelling units to contain smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. It is the administrative recommendation, and I would move that the Council of City of Portage la Prairie approve maintenance and occupancy bylaw 238753 by giving it this first reading.
Moved by Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Massey. Any questions or comments? Just a comment that I think if you follow other municipalities in our province and around the country, is these type of bylaws are definitely something that are being worked on, because they do, when the rules aren't set, then there's a lot of strain on resources for some of this. So some of these are very exciting to see. I know we'll have some citizens happy to see some of these changes if it goes to third reading. All those in favor? And that is carried. New business, community safety officer, public safety, Councillor Doyle.
Well, I am excited to bring this to the council table today. It is to discuss the application to the province of Manitoba for the implementation of a community safety officer program. Manitoba Justice's Safety Officer Program provides municipalities, First Nation communities, and designated employers the option to enhance public safety through the employment of community safety officers. Municipalities interested in implementing a CSO program must apply to the province of Manitoba, submit a business case, budget, and outline expected responsibilities for the new positions. Council has identified the implementation of a CSO program as a strategic priority and has directed administration to prepare a formal application to the province of Manitoba. City administration has developed a business plan, preliminary budget, and outlined expected roles and responsibilities of CSO within our municipalities. Administration has also earmarked additional public safety funding from the province of Manitoba provided in the 2023 budget year to fund the expected upfront capital expenditures to support the CSO program in 2024. If the application is supported by City Council and approved by the province of Manitoba, the hiring and training of CSO staff will begin in the spring of 2024 with the intent to having first officers take official duties by next summer. This timeline will be dependent on training course availability. City Council has been asked to indicate their support of this application by way of formal resolution. It is the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the submission of an application to the province of Manitoba for the Safety Officer Program.
Moved by Councillor Doyle, seconded by Councillor Massey. Any questions or comments? Councillor Doyle?
I would just like to say that I'm excited to read this because I think it is moving in the right direction, and it follows right under our strategic direction that we spoke about, that we've all been working on in the last year. I think this is definitely a move in the right direction, and the citizens of the city have been asking for this, and I'm just so happy to be reading this here today.
Thank you. Any Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Worship, and I just want to put a few comments on the record about this. This is great news. I think all of us heard this issue about public safety in the campaign. And I want to commend our mayor for taking on this leadership role on this and pushing this, to our chair, Colin Doyle, and to former Inspector Peddle and our city manager. This is not easy to put together, and we've now got a plan to move forward as part of our strategic plan, along with the other things we've done, as well as our community safety plan. We are taking this issue seriously, and I commend your worship what you've done on this, because I know at the city's caucus you've been pushing public safety, and I think this is going to be a great initiative. And I'm just so thrilled that this is now going to be a reality as part of our implementing our new strategic plan for our people in Portage.
Thank you. Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just want to take this opportunity to echo both Councillor Doyle's and Councillor Massey's comments. And I think it's important that we stress that Council does have their ears to the ground. We are listening to the citizens and the residents of Portage la Prairie. The only thing I want to be is I just want to caution us that this doesn't overcome what Portage is about. And I think putting in and implementing a program like this kind of as a secondary policing layer along with the RCMP is just going to add to that functionality of our community and offer the protections and so on that people want. I trust through efforts like this that we can talk more about economic development and tourism and all the other things that go along with it. Although this is an extremely important program, and I really support it 110%. So, as Councillor Massey said, I thank the Mayor and, of course, the administration for being able to take it to this far, and certainly for Council support in regards to this program. So, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just speak to that comment a bit, and I think I'm excited for Councillor Doyle in his public safety role to continually communicate with our citizens as to what community safety officer means, because I think sometimes we only think enforcement, and it's really more than that. And I think with the timeline we have and the time we have, we'll be able to educate citizens about that. Is a piece of it. Trust me, it's a piece of it. But it's way more than that, and I know that we'll communicate that. So well done, Councillor Doyle, too. Thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried. Yeah, both hands. Oh, Councillor Massey, I thought we were done with you. So let's go. One more. Old business. Second
Thank
and
you, Your
third
Worship.
reading.
I hope you're not trying to get rid of me here.
No.
Thank you, Your Worship and colleagues. You saw at committee last month some changes to our accommodation tax bylaw 238757. So tonight we're looking at those changes, and the background is on December 9th in 2013, Council passed accommodation tax bylaw 13-8613, and the tax on accommodation of a short duration within the city was intended to generate revenue to be placed in reserve funds for the specific purpose of economic development, tourism and marketing, and Saskatchewan Avenue upgrades and development. And with the Saskatchewan Avenue project now well underway and funding plans in place for the project's completion, and that's a big bouquet to our previous council for having that leadership and having this thing paid now. We don't have to draw on our property taxes to pay to finish it. A review of the bylaw was completed and the following revisions were made. First, the revenue generated from the tax on accommodations of short duration will be allocated to a reserve for the purpose of community enhancements, economic development, tourism, and marketing. Point 2, the continuous period that is exempt from paying accommodation tax be increased from 30 to 90 nights. Third bullet, that for stays greater than 90 nights, only the period of time greater than 90 nights will be exempt from the accommodation tax. And lastly, remove the exclusion of establishments in which fewer than 4 bedrooms are available for rent. It's very important to note that this bylaw cannot be enforced until we've received third reading from Council and approved by the Lieutenant Governor and Council, Cabinet in accordance with the Municipal Taxation and Funding Act. Once third reading has been given, the bylaw will be submitted to the province for approval. The administrative recommendation, I would move that the accommodation tax bylaw 23-8757 be given second reading, and that the second reading.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. And lastly, that the accommodation tax bylaw 23-8757 be given a third reading and finally passed, signed, and sealed.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. All those in favor? And that is carried. Before I adjourn council, I just want to point out to our new youth counselor that I wasn't kidding when I say our meetings are not usually this long, because now I'm thinking she doesn't believe me, but Also, just by looking at our agenda, I just would like to give out a shout out to our administrative and staff to have all of this ready for us to make decisions on at this table. So it's a lot of work. So thank you for that. We'll adjourn council at 7:40 p.m. and we'll move right into committee. Call committee to order at 7:41 p.m. Finance Legislative Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee has nothing in committee this evening, but I would like to just touch very briefly on the Federation of Canadian Municipalities board meeting I attended, or advocacy days in Ottawa at the end of November. Council should be aware housing has become the #1 issue in Ottawa right now, the need for more housing. And FCM put together a study. It costs, on average, across Canada, $107,000 to put the infrastructure to build a home in this country. So FCM is really pushing hard on 3 things. Number 1, doubling of the gas tax, or the community enhancement tax. It's a great program for municipalities. We get it as a city, and we need more of it. It's easy. We can bank it. It's for infrastructure. It's a good program. They're also asking for another federal, provincial, municipal infrastructure program. And I'm pleased to say, and for our city as well, that water will be a big focus on the next program. $1 billion over 10 years for water and wastewater, and we certainly want to see that come to Portage as well. And as well, the last thing that they really are pushing, and I'll have more information in the new year, is a new growth revenue program that's going to allow municipalities, when the economy grows, that we get more revenue out of it and not just rely on property taxes. So those 3 things, as well as we, as AMM, I could say we really are pushing the RCMP and getting at the table on RCMP costs, and being at the table when they're negotiating those contracts. But those are the hot button issues I raised and our Manitoba caucus raised in Ottawa with various members of parliament. So I just wanted to give you that update and just say these are all very relevant to our city. They are needs that we need as a city, and I hope that we're successful in getting some of these accomplished before the next election. So it's just a short report, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Massey. Just want to offer appreciation for you taking the time to sit on FCM and represent our province, and of course Portage la Prairie. And bringing us the information too. Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing official on the agenda, but I did want to just kind of briefly touch on an organization that has been around Portage for a little bit. I never want to talk nice about a pandemic, but sometimes out of a pandemic, good things could happen. And out of this, the situation that happened back in 2020, there's an organization that brought a number of organizations together. And they formed what they call the Portage Economic Response Team. And I just wanted council certainly to be aware of that, and any citizens that they may look at it. Although it's a collaborative effort by a number of organizations, including Southport, the RM of Portage, City of Portage, Portage la Prairie District Chamber of Commerce, and Community Futures Heartland, is largely led by PRED. And I just wanted to bring it to councilors' attention. Now, I understand that our executive director of PRED is sitting there, and I know this follows into your quarterly reports, but I was hoping you could take just a minute, just kind of sum up really what the organization is about and really what it does for our businesses, our economic, and our community.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Very excited to talk about the Portage Economic Response Team. That would be a regional organization or committee of economic development practitioners in our region that does the boots on the ground economic development. So our regional economic development strategy, developing our community profile, identifying how investment ready we are, and really taking a regional approach to boots on the ground economic development.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Your Worship. Thanks for indulging me, Council.
Thank you.
And the last thing, if there's anybody around the table that has anything they would like to add in relationship to either of those part of committee, certainly feel free to add to that.
Thank you. Councillor Massey.
I have to report on this, Your Worship. The mayor and the city manager sent me to a 2-day economic development seminar for elected officials in Carmen. And as you know, our own director here, Eve O'Leary, is president of that association. I must say I took 4 modules, I think, over 2 days, and they were excellent. They very good for elected officials. And I know this council believes in economic development, but it's so important that our elected officials get trained on what economic development is about. I know Councillor Meyer has taken some of this training already. I hope all of our council colleagues get a chance to take these modules. They're excellent, and it was a long 2 days in Carmen, but I really appreciated the mayor and city manager sending me there. So good work, Eve, on your association and those modules.
Thank you. I was lucky enough to have a meeting with the individuals doing our economic strategy. And as you know, I always enjoy talking to people who are talking about our city. So I'm excited to see the results of that, I think in February of 2024, see what they have to say about our region and where we need to head. And thank you for doing that, Eve. Okay. Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. While I have nothing official on the agenda, through Your Worship, I would like to call upon our youth councillor to speak.
Mike's everywhere. It's a press conference.
Do you want me to talk about the meet and greet?
You betcha.
I had this idea for the council to have a Sunday bar meet and greet at PCI held in the multi-purpose room on January 18th, 2024. That's like the tentative date that we have. So students would basically go down to the multi-purpose room, like any individuals on spare, or we would also get like the students that are in class, have the teachers bring them down and like schedule their class there. So basically it'd be kind of like a Sunday bar, so they get to make like ice cream sundaes, and we'd get volunteers from PCI leadership to help set up the Sunday bar, serve the students, and then the students would be able to talk with the mayor and council about any issues that they have, like not issues, but like just whatever questions or comments that they have for the council and mayor. And then also, since some students and individuals are just maybe shy, like they don't want to talk to, like they may be like intimidated by council members and the mayor, like talking to them. So we're gonna set up a Google Doc so they can like anonymously send in their questions, and so the council could see without like directly talking to the individual, like what the students are thinking about these days, like about the city. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Councillor Meyer.
You had me at Sunday.
I
just
know,
so you
yeah.
know. I wanted to beat you to it.
I was just going to make sure you heard ice cream, you guys. And on that note, Parajita and I are also participating this Friday in, I think, the first ever PCI Youth Summit put on by the administration of the school division, actually. So will be exciting for us. Is that it, Councillor Espy?
Unless somebody has something related to the Community Services Committee around the table, that would be it.
Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. Waterworks Committee has nothing to report for this portion of the meeting.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Transportation Committee has nothing to report.
Great. I just have one comment for all of those around the table that when we're out and about, as we know, we had a little bit of a snowfall and icy roads. Kudos to our city operators and staff who got sand down as quickly as we can, and we're fighting with Mother Nature. But also been noticing that, you know, some of our businesses on Saskatchewan Avenue, whether new or old, still have a lot of ice in front of their buildings. So we could always remind them what their responsibilities are as good business owners in the city of Portage la Prairie for safety, and maybe just remind them of people using walkers or mobility issues that they want to be taking care of that for sure. Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I turn it over to the Manager of Administration to share the exciting news about our new animal retention facility, I'd just like to say that, like every city and municipality, Portage has dogs and cats that have either escaped the boundaries of their property owners or they're unhomed. These animals need care as well, and I'm just so happy that the city has brought this back in-house to take care of these animals, because that's amore.
Your Worship, to Councillor Doyle, if that's my cue. So I just want to take an opportunity to provide some public information on the change to our animal retention facility. So for those that aren't familiar, we operated with a private contractor for an animal retention facility that was located outside of the city for a period of 5 years. Couple challenges with that contract. Number one, of course, it was outside of the city, so difficult to go to. Second, it was on private property, so the public wasn't given access to that site if they had questions or concerns or would like to see the animals. And then, of course, third, there's been changing standards in terms of the conditions and that animals are required to be housed in terms of size of cages, access outdoors. That facility was facing more challenges as those standards became higher and higher. So we've taken the step to bring in the animal retention facility in-house. The facility is located by the water pollution control facility right near your bulk water fill station. It was a surplus building that we were able to clear out and actually make a really excellent facility for those animals. So that facility is now being operated by the city as of December 1st, I believe is the date. We're working with our bylaw services contract in terms of caring for the animals. And with that, I am going to turn it over to our Director of Public Safety to talk about the facility. But before I do that, I definitely wanted to give kudos to Mr. Bailey for taking on this project head on. Not everyone becomes a fire chief to go build an animal retention facility. And he was working maybe a little bit over his comfort zone, but he and the staff, who I'd like to thank when he's done, put together a really excellent product that will be a better home for the animals that end up there and better services to the community at large. So with that, I would turn it over to Director of Public Safety, Mr. Bailey.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're super excited to have this project completed. We identified a building that turned out to be fantastic space. I think we couldn't have gotten a lot better. So the first picture here. So the facility received all new lighting. It received a new furnace. It received all the infrastructure things that we need to run a facility like this. We created 3 different rooms within the facility. This is a picture taken from the main front door as you walk in. The open area here is an area that public can come in if they want to view an animal to adopt. The door on the left-hand side is an isolation room. So in the codes and within the facilities, it's great to have an isolation room with its own ventilation system, so you don't bring an animal in and spread any disease throughout your facility. So we do have that room now. And then as you go down the hall, the door on the right is the cat room. So, sorry, the second picture here is a picture of just down the hall towards the cat and dog room with some of our janitorial things. And then the third picture, so this is our cat room. Currently it's it has 8 large cages that can be split in half. So we could house up to 16 cats in cages. Now within the cattery code, you are allowed to have cats live communally as well, as long as if they get along, obviously spayed and neutered. So our capacity has raised from, I believe we had 10 cages at the last facility. So our capacity is a lot larger. This way we can house cats a little bit longer, maybe a little more comfortable until we move them on to rescues and shelters that can adopt them out. room also has its own filtration system, and you can see the glass bricks, which provide some natural lighting. The next picture is our dog room. So our previous facility we utilized had 5 dog kennels. This one has a total of 6 in it. And then along with the isolation room, we can house 7 dogs. So we have a little bit of an increase there. And I believe kennel size is a little bit larger. The next picture, the kennel on the right is designated for dangerous animals. It does have a dog door out to the outside separate kennel so that animal control officers have to limit the amount of time that they're handling the animal. They can put it in the cage. They can it can go outside without them having to handle it. And then the last picture is the outside kennel area. The previous location had 1 kennel. This new facility has 2 larger kennels and 1 extra large kennel. So all 3 can be utilized for letting animals out and getting exercise. The facility as well, it's going to be under surveillance. We've installed cameras, so 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We can monitor the facility as well as remotely. It also has remote monitored temperature control, so we can ensure that, if there's a storm, we can make sure everything is good there. And then finally, I guess the animal protection officers from the province of Manitoba have inspected the facility, and we're very, very, very pleased. It met it actually exceeded all their expectations for a facility. And then the timeline that we put the facility together, they couldn't really have asked for more. So it's turned out to be an excellent facility. And hope that all council can come and have a look.
If I may, before I turn it back over to Councillor Doyle, the reason we were able to put this facility together so quickly is because we were able to use our facility maintenance staff, and they come under the supervision of our Director of Utility, Ms. Friesen. But I just wanted to mention and recognize them at the council meeting, because I can't tell you, if you would have been in that building before and after, I wish we had a before picture actually to share. It's truly amazing the quality of work, personship that was put into the room, how we used a space that was underutilized for what I think is increasing the humane care of animals in our community, and also just providing a better service to our community. So I just want to mention a few of the people who put that together, and that's Brian Cairns, Joel Aberdeen, Travis Ross, Adam Bell, Jordy Painter, Kevin Berg, Kelly Van Kouwberg, and Jacob Huel. So those are our staff who are electricians, plumbers, a few other trades, they're phenomenal staff. They did great work there, and I'm very proud of what the product they put forward, and I think the rest of council should be too. So back to you, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. Pito. Congratulations to everyone involved. I've seen the facility. I haven't quite seen it with the final touches on it yet, but the pictures look great, and I look forward to having a little tour. So I just have one more thing to add in committee here, if I may, Your Worship. I just want to send out a very, very much deserved congratulations to 2 residents in Portage that have recently retired from the Citizens on Patrol program. Rose and Bud Carrier officially retired last Monday at our Christmas dinner. They have been with the COPP program for 27 and 28 years respectively, which is just shy of the entire length of the program in Portage. So without them, the program would not be where it is now. And they've both left some very big shoes to fill. And I just want to congratulate them on their retirement. And I hope they get a little bit of R&R.
Awesome. Thank you. You're going to have lots of room in the retention facility because I'm giving out cats and dogs to everyone here for Christmas. Just, no, awesome. Well done, everyone. Yeah, exactly. And we will adjourn committee at 8 p.m. Happy holidays, everyone. Our last meeting of 2023. We look forward to 2024. And if you're wearing an ugly Christmas sweater, please come forward for a photo.